In this video, we are going to be reviewing the setup of labor factors. Labor factors are how you will customize labor in QuoteSoft. Let's first have a discussion about all things labor. Here in Configurations System tab, we will review your labor source options. With your purchase of the QuoteSoft piping program, you will get the default quote labor. This labor source has been derived from QuoteSoft. The default quote labor is typically reserved for contractors who do less than $1 million a year in revenue. The MCAA labor source is typically reserved for union contractors. The PHCC labor source is typically reserved for non-union contractors. The user labor source option is reserved for customers who wish to use their own custom labor units. The field can be customized to your liking. If you wish to use this option, please contact QuoteSoft to learn more. Please contact your QuoteSoft sales rep if you wish to inquire about purchasing the MCA or PHCC labor sources. The purpose of establishing a labor source is to populate the database of materials with labor units. For example, we can take a look at 1-inch Type L hard copper tube and see the labor units associated with this database item. Though this training video is to discuss customization of labor in the QuoteSoft piping program, please understand we do not customize labor by editing the labor unit fields here. Now that we understand we have a default labor source populating each database item, we will now discuss how to customize labor in the program. From the main menu of QuoteSoft, we will customize labor here in Labor Factors. At a basic level, labor is customized by assigning a labor factor to a labor factor group. For example, for copper pipe with 95/5 soldered joints, if you wish to factor your labor down 30% from your labor source, you would assign a factor of 0.70. Now that we understand the basics, let's discuss all labor factoring options. You are not limited to one labor factor per group. You can establish up to 4 different labor factors per group. Using the Titles button, you can customize the titles of those options. We will now go over some scenarios of how to properly use and customize the titles. This example is by construction type, a change order option, and your full MCAA or PHCC labor source. This example is by type of work. And lastly, laboring projects by size of work. And notice that you are not forced to use all 4 scenarios. It must also be noted that you are not limited to 4 labor factor scenarios. Using the Family button at the top of the screen, here you can define up to 120 different labor factoring families. First, you may not call them families, so it might make more sense to put your company name here. Next, here is an example of setting up labor factor families per type of work, commercial and residential. This will allow you to set up 4 labor factor scenarios for commercial work and 4 separate labor factor scenarios for residential type work. Another example would be the location of the work. Once you have established the families and titles for your labor factors, you are now ready to set your actual labor factors. We are now going to go through the tools showing you how to accomplish this. If you would like to establish a unique labor factor for each group, you can enter that unique factor individually for each group. Keeping in mind, you do need to do this for all labor factor groups. However, if you wish to establish the same labor factor for all labor factor groups, above each title is a button that gives you the options to set, factor, and copy. We are first going to learn how to set a value. Selecting the option Set will give you a dialog box in which you can enter your labor factor. This will establish that labor factor on all labor factor groups. Use the Factor 2, Factor 3, and Factor 4 buttons to set unique values for the additional columns. There are additional tools to help you establish values between the 4 columns. For example, if you set unique labor factors between the groups, we can copy those factors from one column to another and adjust them. To do so, we are first going to copy values from one column to another. Select the button above the column you wish to copy from, and select the Copy option. Then enter the numerical value for the column you wish to copy to. For renovation, I will enter 2. Next, we are going to factor the copied values. Select the button above the column you wish to factor, and select the Factor option. Entering a value will increase by a percentage. A minus will decrease the value, and a positive value will increase the value. No need to enter the percent sign. We now have 2 different columns with 2 unique values. One more thing to note. Job items are where we will define installation labor for fixtures and equipment. Here in Labor Factors, find the Job Items Labor Factor group and set the columns to a value of 1 so that the labor established with installation of fixtures and equipment is not adjusted. Please note, the factors used in this training are for example only. If you do not have historical data of what to factor from your labor source, please call QuoteSoft and schedule a training and we can assist you. When you are finished, please select the Close button, and when prompted, click Yes to save changes, and OK, updating changes to the server. Thank you for watching this video on establishing labor factors.